So here we are, a Saturday night, live with Tony Nicki. Here we go. So here we are, like the end of February, darling. What do you got to say about that?
I know. And
end of February already.
Isn't that amazing? And isn't it a leap year?
No. That was last year.
That means I can't propose to you again.
No. Absolutely.
Not that I've ever proposed to you.
No.
Oh, no.
Here we are. Saturday night. There you go. Right, okay. Right.
Julie Barker's in the house.
Oh, come on. She's always reliable, isn't she? Very reliable. So, yeah, there's a couple of people come on tonight's, what should we call it, episode 5. The 5th week running that we've done this. Now at 7 o'clock, of course. Tonight, I chose a subject which is in a document we wrote 2004 or something like that, which was called
a long time ago.
In fact, we're just soon going to rewrite it and make it up to 10. But it's called the 7 horrifying. I mean,
horrifying. Actually, that was it. That was the
mistakes people make in their intimate relationship, and I believe this was mistake number 4 or something along those lines, which is a bit of an Einsteinism if you read the blurb on what we were going to talk about, which is the crazy saying that says, if you do the same thing over and over again and expect to get a different result, then it is actually the first sign of insanity, is the word he used. Like madness is what I always said. But anyway, of course, in intimate relationships, it's like the thing that we do over and over and over again. That's why I think it's such a great one to talk about. What is it that we do over and over and over again? So, of course, look, we're live on Facebook, live on YouTube. If you are on YouTube, then please, if you haven't already done it, do hit the old subscribe button, because then you get proper reminders and all stuff.
Can I say the next bit? Because I love saying, and hit the notification bell, and then it will tell you when we are putting a new video on. Love that for some reason. I love that.
Yes, what is that all about? But anyway, it's all great. So, yeah, and if you've got any questions, please do ask away as we say something. If it twigs with you or it brings up a question, surely you're not saying that, then do type away. And, of course, say hi. Tell us who you are, where you are, all of that sort of stuff. We love saying hello.
We love all that.
So,
actually, that's interesting you say that, because so often if we say things very, very clearly, often it is contentious because we're sort of like going against what a lot of people are thinking is what makes an intimate relationship work. And we've been on the television, we've been on the radio, we've been on all sorts of things more years ago, more than we have recently. But honestly, remember when people used to ring in and go, "Are you certain you mean that?" We go, "Yes, we are." Well, and the question we love to ask people is, well, like if they go, "No, but surely it's better if you look, like, for example, look for a compromise or look for that." And we go, "Well, come back in 5 years' time and tell us how well that's working."
Yes. So I do believe this is it, because I do remember doing a talk once in a pub, believe it or not, but it was rammed solid. And there was a lot of speakers on, and we were one of the speakers. And at the end, they got all the speakers together. And one of the speakers said, "But, this whole thing about relationships, I'm not sure I agree with it." It's like another speaker, he started arguing with some of what we said. Like Nicki said, it's very contentious. And the audience really turned on him, because he actually said, surely a good relationship with my wife is all about compromise. And they started to boo him and whatever. It was quite embarrassing, really. But yeah, so yeah.
But actually, I do think that's one of the things we should talk about. Yes. I know that may not have been in our old 7 big mistakes, but it's like it's such a thing that people's logical mind thinks that, well, if I give in on that and then he gives in on this, then everything will be great. But it doesn't. It's not, is it?
No. I mean, obviously, compromise means you're giving up a part of yourself. But look, I do believe that ultimately, if you are doing something and you're unaware of it, that is driving the other person nuts, then and your experience of the other person is then them going nuts, then of course what we tend to try to do is we try to stop them doing that to us. So it's almost like, yeah, look, could you just stop doing that and then I'll be fine. So we're always like what I call outside of ourselves, looking to change the other person. And look, the truth is, you can't change them, only they can change them. So if they're doing something that drives you nuts, then it basically trying to control them. Look, when we've done talks to big audience, one of my favourite questions is, who here, put your hand up if you like being controlled? And then how many people do you reckon ever put their hand up? Well, no one, absolutely no one ever really. I've had the odd person go, well, half a hand goes up. I don't mind. But, look, mostly nothing, yeah? So, look, ask yourself the question, do you like being controlled? But then you have to ask yourself the question, in relationships, like if I'm in one now, am I, under any sort of situation, am I thinking or trying to get the other person to do something that I want them to do? Because that is a form of control. So most people don't like being controlled, but they're inadvertently, mostly unknowingly, unconsciously as we call it, doing a level of control. They're trying to get the other person to do something that, look, I do it. It's the dishwasher thing, I'm always going, I'm a dishwasher person. And it's a funny thing, really, because it's Michael McIntyre joke. If you've ever watched, he sometimes he talks about lots of crazy things, doesn't he? But he often talks about like things in the kitchen appliances, and I've seen him do a sketch on washing machines, but I've definitely seen him do the sketch on dishwashers. And it's his wife that says to him, look, Michael, when you go towards the dishwasher with like your plate or your dirty cup or whatever, what makes you, put the plate on the side, on top of the dishwasher? Do you think when it's like on top of the dishwasher, it's going to get washed? And of course he goes, well, no, you know what he's like. Anyway, she goes, well, look, is there any way that you could literally open the door and, like, instead of putting it on top and letting me put it in, could you put it in? Well, we have that problem. It's really funny, Anyway,
I'm not saying a word
the other
because
day,
I think, yes.
But I do try. I have, honestly, I've tried forever to go, why do you put it on the top? So I've got to put it in, And
no. Here's the thing.
But
this is what's so great about an intimate relationship is you find out, you see, just hear what Tony just said. Whereas I'm thinking, I'm not expecting him to put it in. I'm just thinking, I'll put it in later. But one of the things, it's such an interesting subject, this. It's so simple. It sounds so, we've had people come rushing up to us and say, I don't know whether to stay in this relationship or not. And I remember this woman, and I said to her, what's the problem? She went, keeps putting the knives in the dishwasher the wrong way around. So we had a great debate then about what was the right way round.
Well, I always put them around the wrong way.
Yeah, but we came to a conclusion that there was no right or wrong.
We did, until recently.
And then we had a new person come into the house. She's one of the mom's carers.
So just like, which one? Let's just ask. Well, look, type in, do you put the knives in the dishwasher this way up with the knife pointing upwards, or do you put it in with the knife pointing down?
Michael Callispero says, we just smashed the plates on Greek.
Fantastic. Nothing like a bit of Greek smashing. We went to a wedding once where they did that, but it was really strange.
It's in Austria, though.
Yeah, but it was Austrian people. No, sorry, it was Dutch people getting married in Austria, smashing plates. I'm going, this is a very confusing wedding. But anyway, there you go. Nothing like a good bit.
Anyway, so smashing. Yes, are you a knife up or a knife down?
Yeah, because look, what's the truth? Is there a right and a wrong way?
And the answer logic in it, because you could go, okay, well, you could hurt yourself on a knife. Well, you could hurt yourself
Julie's
on a
going
fork.
The knife pointing upwards. Now, when we've got Julie,
you could cut yourself.
Look, you sometimes come around our house. You're not in now until you put it down the other way. Because
till COVID's over.
Yeah. So look, well, the problem is
blade
with them
down.
up,
Someone's gone blade down. Michael. I am a blade down person.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
You're a blade up.
I have always been an up. Always been an up man. I don't know. Maybe that's the problem. That's the problem. Always been an up man.
Let's not go there.
But anyway, here's the thing. That this lady who comes in our house, she's a. We sort of care for her mum. Well, Nicky's mum, she's 94, bless her. But we have this lady come in who looks after her early in the morning.
Anyway, there's a lot of rules.
She is saying, look, you cannot You know, it's like a rule in her world. You know,
Nigel says just use spoons.
I have noticed, bless her.
Yeah,
she's
he
one of
shouldn't
the.
be allowed to have sharp
Look,
instruments.
her name is Angela, and she actually is angelic. Okay, but when it comes to knives being up in the dishwasher, she's going, you can't do that. I'm going, no, why not? She's gone, well, look, and here's the point. She has got a point. I have started to turn them around the other way. She said, look, if ever you fell over and you fell over the knives, then you're very likely to stab yourself.
Be nice with a fork.
No, that's what I did say that, and the forks won't go.
Anyway, Nikki Lowell. Nikki Lowell is in the house.
Come on.
Oh my goodness me.
Which way does she have the knives?
Incredible woman.
Up or down?
Incredible woman. Hold on, let me just, because it's a whole debate going on here.
Yeah,
We've got Izzy,
it's a great one, isn't it?
Izzy and Harry, what do you do? Izzy's pointing down. Izzy's pointing down. Julie's pointing up. Blade down, Michael Calisperas.
Safety first. There you go.
Julie's going, I'm not in fear. Get in there, Julie Barker. Right. Men love to control the dishwasher. Nikki, I'm all for this, right? Leave it to them, I say. Therefore, knife down, because you've said knife down. Nigel's saying use spoons. Nikki, that's so funny. Madness, knife up. Recipe for disaster. Don't leave that man with the dishwasher. Nikki. Hey, both.
Yeah, but there you go. But
Naomi Brown.
Look, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing.
Right.
You think there's no, but look, a little thing like this causes wars in some people's house. And so, but look, the thing is, are you trying to control the other person? So I'm always trying, in vain, mostly, to get my wife, this amazing woman, to put it actually in the dishwasher, because she always puts it on the top.
I'm with Nikki Lowell, because she's going, leave the man to the dishwasher, because the trouble is, in our relationship, if I leave you to the dishwasher, that means you're doing the cooking, the shopping, the dishwasher. But I've only got the washing machine left.
I'm glad you noticed that. Anyway, so look, here's the thing. Anyway, somebody said to us once, we'd only been in our relationship a few weeks, and then we had a couple of punch-ups, not physical, of course. It was just, we had a couple of situations where this sort of, thing happened.
One of them was packing a suitcase. Oh my goodness me, we were getting on really, really well.
Really well. Says that,
and we're all of a sudden we're going away. I get my suitcase, or I get Tony's suitcase out. So I think I was living in your house. My suitcases were back in Birmingham. I get a suitcase out. I start putting my clothes in. He starts throwing his things in the case willy-nilly, and I'm going, "What are you doing?" He's going, "I'm putting my things in." I'm going, no. I think we have got to have a conversation about this, because I am very anal about
I backed off. Why? Because, if a woman bursts out crying, men, we tend to back off,
I don't
Anyway, cried. There was somebody else in the house there. She had to have coaching. It was unbelievable. Anyway, what the thing was, I can't even remember what we had a little fallout about. But anyway, I actually went to this guy who is, just one of my favourite people on the planet. I did notice last week, because he lives in America, in the deep south. His name's Woody Marks. Amazing man. Amazing coach. So I went to Woody.
Alabama.
Yeah, I went to Woody and said, mate, I need your help.
Yeah.
And he's going, what country are you from? Him and me, we speak like completely different. Anyway, I said, look, I've had a bit of a problem with Nikki. We've only been together a few weeks, and we've got this problem. And so he didn't say to me, tell me what the problem is, because he's a great coach, and he's very fast. He's very, very, very fast. So he said, let me stop you there. Don't start telling me stories, all right? I'm just going to share something with you.
One question.
I'm going to ask you one question, and that will resolve it all. So it's a very powerful question. So if you've ever been in a bit of discourse over something like knives up, knives down, your wife leaving the things, on the top and you putting them in, the thing that my wife is best at, though, I'll tell you this, it's absolutely, she is the queen.
What are you after?
The queen of emptying the dishwasher.
Oh.
So look, I never.
See, I don't like it when you start interfering when I do that.
Yeah, she does it completely different to me.
Things away wet.
Anyway,
can I just say, there's people commenting here, I've got to show you, which is hysterical.
Go on then, yeah.
This just shows you, in all seriousness, this just shows you that even silly things like this, you're absolutely right. Remember, emblazoned on our soul is, do you want to be right or
well,
do you
that
want
was
to be
his question.
happy?
That is Woody's
And
question.
we like,
Yes,
as you
definitely.
could probably see, and I know this is
We
such,
both want to be right.
we both,
Look, the problem, that is a
but
problem.
we like to laugh
But we
about
do
things.
laugh, yeah.
We like to
You've
have
got
fun.
to laugh.
Here's what I think is really interesting. Nicki Lau, she says, yes, just leave it to them. They'll change it anyway, whatever you do. Now, here's the truth. Close your ears now. He puts them in the wrong way around. I don't say a word. I just leave it. And then when he's not looking, I go back in and change it.
Fantastic.
I mean, then we don't have an argument about it.
It's brilliant.
I'm not making you wrong. You're not making me wrong. But here's the thing. The whole subject is that you've got to understand this is not living in compromise. It's allowing each other to do things the way you want to do them. And if there is a difference, the only one we came over, I think we mentioned this last week, but I mean, absolutely is the biggest one, is when there is no way you can both needs be met. Because theoretically, let's just use this as an example. You and I could put the knives in the dishwasher the wrong way around, each differently.
Yeah.
We switch it on, it doesn't matter.
Unless
right?
you fall on the knives.
But
I've never ever thought of that.
But what about when it's the Europe Brits thing?
Oh, that...
window open or window closed. You can't have it. Well, you could have it open like this much.
Yeah, but it's still a big draft.
But it's still a big draft because we.
So come on, let's find out. We're in the UK. We may not all be Brits.
Naomi's saying it's hard because being right makes her happy.
Yeah, well, there you go. That is the problem. But the challenge is. But anyway, let's just ask the window question. Do you sleep with the window open, or do you sleep with the window closed?
Open,
now, we don't talk much about
closed.
The women I was with before Nicki V. But I was with.
You talk about them all the time.
When?
I just don't talk about the men I was with.
Get out of it. That's just not true. We've been looking at wedding photos today with Nick.
It's different. It's Nick's father.
Asking the grandchildren, who do you think that is?
So the Ty who's 8, he's looked at Grandad Bob, which is Nick's dad, my ex, right? He thought it was you.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Ooh.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Well, we all laugh, but
window closed, window open.
Oh, right. Naomi's open and his are closed.
Yeah.
We live in England.
Well, but so does Nay, but she's window open.
But there you go. Like when I was with this girl,
closed.
I was with this German girl, and closed. She's like, very first night we've like gone in the
James
bedroom.
Dewan, open always.
Like, she has gone
mostly
closed and open the window. Going, what are you doing? It's freezing. It's absolutely
She was
freezing.
going window open. Listen, I've shared a room with Julie B.
Well, when you're in the Renaissance, what do you do then? What do? You can't have it open.
She brings a fan.
Oh no!
Right? No, but the thing is, she's going. My future hubby will leave it open too. Well, I hope so.
So it's not.
I
just
used to have to wrap myself in blankets.
I thought it was a German thing, but there are people in England that are English keeping the windows open.
Luke Biddle, Dick and Teeth, and I said move.
Too noisy.
Hello, Luke. Open.
Come on, Luke.
But you see how there's lots of open close.
Anyway, yeah.
And
but all of these little things.
What are you going to do? And this is where compromise won't work. This is the point we're making with all the window dishwasher stuff. What are you going to do? One of you has got to decide, look, this is a good question to ask. Also, we love the 0 to 10 question. On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being, do you know what? I'm cool with it. Or 10, it's an absolutely must have. And the thing is, if you're really in a lovely way with each other, you're never going to both be tense. It's just not going to happen because there's going to be one thing that's going to be more important, and the one goes, do you know what? It's not that important to me. Let's do it that way.
Well, we have another one. What do you reckon about this? I'm
frightened to think what you're going to say.
So when I was little, my mum was very, very strict. Yeah.
Exactly.
So one of the things that we were very I'm not going to say the word poor, but we weren't very well off, should we say? Yeah. So leaving the lights on was like, oh my God, you were going to get in serious trouble if you left the lights on. Yeah. So I actually, I had to turn all the lights out. If I didn't, I'd get my mum used to call it a thick ear. I mean, she had a stick. That's how. Anyway, bless her. She's up there now, and she's loving me, and I'm loving her. We're all doing great. But anyway, the thing is that in Nicki's house, they're like the opposite. They literally have every light on in the house,
winter,
even
summer.
when the sun is beaming through the window, and you don't need it on. we've got it on. So of course I come into the house going, whoa, hold on a minute, this is wasteful. This is, I'm sort of pretending to be a bit green and sort of eco going, well, but actually I'm really going, hold on a minute, that's a waste of money. What are we doing here, But basically, so of course, what happens in our house, and it still goes on, nobody ever mentions it, but Nikki will walk in the room and turn all the lights on, and then when she walks out, I'll turn them all off. So, are you a lights on person or are you a lights off person? Now, we have come to some sort of compromise because I've got dimmer switches, so I go for a halfway, and actually she still comes in and turns the dimmer switch up. So
no, but can I just say,
yes,
this is one thing, it's really, really interesting that because you realised, I know this is just an example, but it's
yes,
a really good example, because you realised that was from your upbringing. So what you've got to think about is if you get if you habitually do something and you recognise it's from your childhood, then you have to decide. So in this circumstance, we've recognised very, very clearly Tony's childhood was switch them off. You get a clip around the ear roll if you don't switch the lights off. It's wasteful. We haven't got the money and all that kind of stuff. My family was, when you go in the lounge, darling, please put all the lamps on. It was my little job.
I still find it mad. In my head, I'm going, it's mad.
I know.
But I know you like it.
Great for it because they're going to get a lot of
eco bulbs.
You're going to get oh no, I hate them. Adoration for this is that you have lived with me now for nearly 18 years. And you have been really understanding of the fact that I like lamps on, I like candles on, I like. Well, you wouldn't know what you're
never going to believe it. I've changed.
You have because you've gone. I
get up in the morning and I've got some lights on auto switches, because they come on at 6 o'clock in the morning, even in the midsummer. Yeah. Now then I go into the lounge in the morning, which we very rarely use, and I put all the lights on because I know that when she walks in, she likes that. Anyway, you did the other week.
I remember the dimmer switches.
Yes.
You got an electric shock, didn't you, Nigel, putting them in?
But anyway, so these are just differences. If you think about it, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's normally just programming, yeah? It's how you were brought up. You're normally doing what you saw in your house when you were a kid, and because what you thought everything you observed, you thought that was the right way to do it. Then when you go around your mate's house and they're doing the opposite, you go, what are they doing? So of course, once you get in a relationship, that is often a problem. And these small things, when I think of how many different things we've got. So one of the things that Nikki does love, give the thumbs up, girls, if you love this, is that, Facebook's stuck. But anyway, it's probably just us. One of the things that Nikki absolutely loves is flowers. She loves live flowers. Now, in my world, you might think this is a little bit mad, but I don't like to encourage flowers. Why?
Because they've been murdered.
Yeah, because technically
they've been grown just for people like me to have them in vases all over the house, because the house, we've got a lot of vases, a lot of lamps, and Tony thinks that it's not good for the flowers because they have been cut off in their prime.
So then, and on the flowers it says they've got 5 days left. Basically that's it. Anyway, I know how much she loves them. I absolutely know. So this morning,
and the lamps, it's the same. You're amazing.
I get up and I go, wherever I go, and I go and buy loads of flowers. And obviously Sainsbury's, they didn't have any left because there were so many in my trolley, and we've got them in every room. But look, she loves it. So one of the things I'm saying is, look, I could not buy flowers. I could go there a waste. You've murdered them.
But can I say something?
Whatever. But it's not a must-have. But it's something she loves. She loves doing the flower arranging. She's so happy when she's got a few flowers. She's cutting them, she's feeding them, and they look lovely. I mean, she does them, and she says to me, "Don't they look lovely?" And I go, "Yes, darling, they are lovely."
Yeah, I'm thinking of starting a flower arranging for high D profile, fast-paced women.
They go in there like.
But I was just going to say something, which is absolutely. No, I don't love it. I do. Here's what I think is the really good point here. We're having a laugh and we're talking about all the things, and people are commenting, although there's something wrong with the video. Don't matter.
Just do a refresh.
Yes, I will. And we're plugged in.
Okay.
And here's the thing. I can remember, by the way, just in case anyone here is single listening to this, I actually remember
You're back.
writing in my vision of what I wanted my relationship life to be like, that I wrote the words, he fills the house full of flowers.
Yeah, and
Now,
I actually know that. I do know that.
But without me telling you that at the beginning,
I do know
you actually went, remember we were in Faversham, you went to the supermarket and literally bought loads and loads of flowers, and we had them all over the house when we first got together. And the point is, you might go, that's very extravagant, Nikki V, you shouldn't be asking for that. I never asked for it. I don't ask for it. I don't demand it. If Tony came home on a Saturday or Sunday and didn't bring any flowers, shock horror, I wouldn't say anything. I'd just go, yeah, fine, it's great. I can always make them last, actually. I make them last from last week. So because of that, basically he knows what I love. So we talked about this last week. We said the individual needs of the woman. So I then find that I go into the kitchen, and whilst I've been brought up, because I was brought up, terribly spoiled. I was brought up. I never had to put.
I've got black
I never
spoons.
did any.
I bought black spoons, but obviously you were brought up with what colour?
Oh, stop it! Right, no. But the thing is, when I walk into the kitchen, I was brought up to never even took a plate out into the kitchen.
No, we managed to get them into the kitchen.
Right, they just were left. My mum just did everything. Right, so. Now, when I walk into the kitchen, will you let me finish this story?
That mother.
Of course she has.
Yes.
Right.
Well, spoil is the word.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But when I go into the kitchen and I think about leaving it on the side or just like leaving stuff out.
You do think about it?
Of course I do. I think about leaving it.
And then leave it there.
I'm going to swear in a minute. I'm leaving it on the side.
She's never going to leave it on the side again. She's not. I can feel it. It was a good subject.
Never marry a man who talks more than you do. Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Right.
I'm with Naomi. I want to be right.
She's off. He's off.
Anyway, obviously.
Right, let me finish this little bit because it's really important. So when I go into the kitchen, and the part of me that just goes, well, just take it in the kitchen, leave it on the side, knows how much Tony loves the kitchen to be tidy. So I do it, not begrudgingly, not because he's trying to control me, anything, because I go, he likes that. Now that is, if we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk about the mistakes people make. The mistakes people make are going, well, tough, I'll just leave it out. So then the other person goes, tough, I won't buy her any flowers. Yes. Or the other person goes, tough, I have to have the window open and teeth chattering like I do when I'm sleeping with JB. It's another subject completely, right? And
you might have to explain that a bit more.
But that's really funny. So when used to do
I'm
events,
not there when that's happening.
Well, we used to do events.
I'm not there.
JB and I used to share a room, and we shared a bed because we just always did, right? And I, again, it's a bit like that in a friendship. She's my bestie, right? We used to go and stay somewhere. I know she gets really, really hot. She likes the window open. And I would literally think about it and go, right, I'm staying with JB. I better take some extra blankets, or I'll get the hotel to bring me extra blankets. That, it's like a friendship. It's like an intimate relationship. It's not give and take like that shitty compromise thing. It's caring about the other person.
We call it meeting the needs.
I'll shut up now and you can
But it is. We did say it last week. It's meeting the needs of the other person, the individual quirky needs. If you can meet those, that's great. And if you're not, then it is the Einstein thing that you're keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So that's why Woody Marks's question was so powerful, because it shut me up straight away when he said, look, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? That's all there is to it. He later told me, I remember him telling me that his mum told him that. And it served him well as a coach because it cut through all the crap. And, then the truth is, yes, I do love to be right. But obviously, being happy is much more important. Absolutely. So it is a really, 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 really good, serious question to ask yourself. If you are getting into disconnection about these little things that actually can drive you mad. In fact, I would say in relationships, we've often said this, in relationships, the things that are going to cause you the most problem are the little things, yeah? In fact, when we go to stay in Damanhur, if you've never heard us talk about Damanhur, go and have a little nose. It's a place we love to go in northern Italy. One man's vision, he started his vision in the 1960s. It came into sort of fruition in the early 70s. And today he's died, but it still carries on. There's about 1,000 people live there. I promise you, if you go on a visit there, it will blow your socks off. Yeah, the way people live and how they live free of this stuff. In fact, they live there in houses of about 25 people, so they
That
live
would
in
be a stretch for
families.
me.
Yeah, but we've gone and lived in these houses, and of course, you know, the key thing that the founder said that it does is it allows these little things to come to the
Yes.
surface.
Yes.
It's like, because
It
look,
is the same as it
it is.
being an intimate
The
relation.
truth is that what he's saying is all of this is all about your ego self. The real you is fine with everything, yeah, because it's not in judgment. It's in a place of love. And if you're really in a place of love, then you're very forgiving. You know, if you look at all the beautiful words that you could use, you could be understanding, you could be compassionate, you could be giving, you could be sharing, you could be trusting, loving, joyous, blissful. You can do all of these things, but to experience those things, you have to be out of your ego, which means you have to give up the right to be right, and choose to be happy as well, because happy is on that side of the fence. Yeah. Now, if you try and justify, defend, judge the other person, the point of all this is that those energies will drive a wedge between you. So instead of you like being magnetically attracted like you were when you first got together, what happens is these little tiny things where you keep trying to be right means that you're in judgment and you're in this sort of what I call lower energy fields. And when you make the other person wrong, you know, guess what? It's one of my other favorite questions, a bit like do you like being controlled? And nobody puts their hand up. Well, I go, what's the truth? Are you trying to control in any way, shape, or form? My other favorite question is, who here likes being wrong? Well, how many people do you think put their hand up? Absolutely none. But, what's the truth? Do you make the other person wrong? And the answer is yes. And when you make the other person wrong, guess what happens to them? They don't want to be wrong because nobody put their hand up, remember. So if you make them wrong, the thing is that they don't want to be wrong. So they defend and justify. And generally speaking, when they defend and justify, which is what we're doing by having a bit of fun here to demo it, is when you defend and justify, basically you're making them wrong. And what happens is this little crack appears in your relationship. Instead of being magnetically drawn, it's like if you've ever done the magnets when you were a kid at school, when you put them around the right way, they attract. That is when there's love, let's call it love involved, yeah? And you're in a great place. When you make the other person wrong, what happens is, when you turn the magnets around the other way, they like repel each other, and you try to push them together, but they break apart. And the problem is that the little things do that. So when we went to Damanhur, the reason I was telling you this is when we met the founder, he was an amazing, amazing soul. I won't tell you about him. Please do go and read it. He's like one of the most amazing people that we have ever met, who has done things that like think of some of the prophets that have lived here. Jesus would be a good example where, it was said that Jesus, did miracles. Yeah. Well, this man is like on that sort of level, but he was alive, and he's done things that you go, whoa, that's impossible to do that. Yeah. But he did it. And so yeah, he's an interesting character. But when we asked him a few questions, he said, look, the reason we put all these people together is to create the possibility of this gap. And our job, with 25 people living in the house, sharing the house, they had shared kitchen, shared living areas, but they all had their own bedroom and bathroom. Sometimes they shared bathrooms, yeah. But basically, he said what we're doing is we're looking to create that move away from each other, but to be aware of that move away from each other, so that we can see that friction, we can see the resistance, and then when the resistance is there, it's our job. Not their job, it's our job to take the friction away and cause the magnets to come back together. And he said, look, it is always, I promise you, all the big things, not a problem, but the little things. And he gave the example, because they live in such large numbers, they've got them very big American freezers in their kitchens, yeah. And when you open their freezers, if you're living in one of their houses, I promise you, there's like nothing from the shop, nothing. They don't have they have their own shop, but they don't sell you buy in a supermarket, really. They just don't, They make their own food, they cook their own food. This is all part of what they do. But they're experimenting, living together is one of their big experiments. And but it might be the case that one of them might treat themselves to something and put it in the fridge. He used the example of a yogurt. So he said the thing that will cause like the biggest problem in the house would be that if you bought yourself something and you've whacked it in the fridge, like a special treat for yourself, and then you come to the fridge and you open the door and somebody else has ate it. He's gone, that causes more problems than anything else. That causes that disconnect. And of course, then of course, you, instead of living collectively, which is what they're doing, they're living as a collective. Can we live like this, free of ego?
Well, this is perfect.
But of course, what I'm just going to say is that what you're doing when you go to get your yogurt, you are individualizing. And when you live in a relationship as two separate people, there will be a gap. So it's about, certainly something we've taught for years. And when we're working with couples, it's always the final thing that we teach them. We teach them to go, right, okay, let's see if, you're working as an us. Like we are now an us. Otherwise we're two, what I call individuals, sharing a house. And that is not
and
love.
Trying to find a solution to things.
Yeah. So love doesn't live there, though. Go on, you've got
yes. No. Love doesn't live there. I like that. Michael's saying, do you think the lockdown is creating more friction on things about like the topics we're talking about now?
And of course, look, the greatest gifts of all are when you are challenged. So this was the point of the guy in Damanhur. He's literally saying, we need the yogurt situation to realize that we're not in a place of love. So lockdown is like, could it be, excuse me, could it be that lockdown is a gift? It's a gift because yes, we're going to get more problems, but the universe is giving us the problems because by giving us the problem, we've got the opportunity to recognize that we are doing these things that don't work, i.e. trying to be right. We're trying to be right, making the other person wrong inadvertently, which causes the friction. So by keeping everybody in the house and forcing them to be together long term, we have the opportunity to grow. Look, we obviously have the opportunity to, get fully apart. But the learning is, as the guy said at Damanhur, the learning is to see what you're doing that's creating you to have the experience of the other person. And trying to be right is honestly, it's the biggest thing. It is the biggest thing because it happens in all ways. So we've used lots of quirky things, knives up, right, lives down. There is no right or wrong way, really. There might be practical arguments about falling on the knives and stuff like that, which I find amusing,
So what I wanted to add to that was and it's been so interesting talking. It's a good question, Michael, because obviously I do think that it's a bit like the most divorces or the most applications for divorces happen the first couple of weeks in January because people have been home together, not being if both of them work, they're home together for the Christmas holidays. Maybe they're with family that they don't normally spend time. Everything can go wrong. People get lots of sugar.
Even though it's
lots of sugar, lots of things like that.
A joyous time, isn't it?
But actually, go wrong. And I think that lockdown has been a little bit like that. And what's been fascinating for me with the people that I've been coaching during lockdown has been that a lot of the time it's not the little things like we're talking about. They just happen all the time. That's why you've got to think about it. Notice as those little things happen, what you're saying to yourself. Are you resentful? Are you angry? Are you going, well, if only you were more like me, then everything will be all right? Or are you, as Tony said, looking at it from a good place? But what I've been hearing, and maybe this is true for you, what I've been hearing is it will depend on what people believe about the lockdown, what they believe, whether they're in fear of, getting COVID, whether they are frustrated that they can't be out, going out doing things, that their inner world, as we would call it, the chemicals that they're creating in their bodies, the way that they are as individual people dealing with the fact that life has been a bit different is going to be equal to whether they're in a whether their relationship is working or not. And it's so interesting, especially as well, if you think about it, if you're apart and you don't live together and all of a sudden now you've got to keep the relationship alive. You've got to keep yourself, you've got to like keep that bond between you, or that connection between you, when you're not actually living in the same place, or meeting up, or whatever you normally do. But been so obvious to me that it's been the person's own energy. And it was one of the first things we talked about in our 7 mistakes. It wasn't the first one. We'll probably talk about that in a minute. But the second one was literally that the person is they're blaming something outside of themselves. I know you'll be sick of hearing me say this over and over again, which is my thing. But if they're in COVID and they're frustrated about it, and they wish they could get to work, or their business is suffering, or they've got to homeschool the children, or blah, 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 all those things, if they're not handling it well inside of them, their relationship is likely to suffer. And I think, Michael, that's why I do believe it's been a challenge for people, because people sometimes, and we spoke about this last week, if you're in an okay relationship, remember that was the sort of level 2 relationship, then that means that, you've got your job, they've got their job, you're 2 people sharing a house. Yes, you might have things in your relationship where you like the same things, you like the same television programs, you like the same hobbies, you both, I don't know, play golf or whatever it is, and you've got that going on, but you're actually leading pretty much 2 separate lives. All of a sudden you're thrown together. And I've had so many interesting conversations with people who have said, literally, since COVID, I've noticed that, we've been finding it difficult to keep that connection because we live in different places, or we've been spending time in the house together. We haven't been able to go on holiday. We haven't been able to go and do sport or whatever that is. And the frustration that people have been feeling, and they've taken it out on the very person that they
you always take
claim to love,
on the person that you love, but you're not being loving. So I'm going to give you some homework, okay? Are you up for a bit of homework? Put your hand up if you want some bit of homework. Now, all you've got to do is to go. If you have never watched this film is it's so brilliant. I am going to ruin the story because I have to tell the story. But anyway, it's much bigger than this story. But it's about a couple that basically start to really disconnect. Because anyway, the film, write it down now, go to Amazon. It's probably going to be about £3 to rent it and watch it. Yeah. But it's called Evan Almighty. If you've never seen Evan Almighty, it's an absolutely masterful piece of work. I've forgotten the guy's name who's the lead.
It's not Adam Sadler. It's like he looks like him. It's
anyway,
not him.
Somebody will tell us who the lead is in Evan Almighty. But anyway, he gets this message from God, and it's really funny. But it's funny, but it's serious at the same time.
Follow up to Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, which had Jim Carrey in it, of course. Yeah, and he was in the first one. He was the newsreader, I believe, on the news. And then anyway, still the newsreader in the second. The guy that's the newsreader is the lead in Evan Almighty. But anyway, look, the point is about relationships. Is he gets a message from God and he has to do this thing, and in doing it, his wife is getting more and more. He's doing everything his wife hates, to the point where if you get too far apart, the only solution is, I always say, you sort of end up at the solicitors. Well, before that, they tend to we'll separate. So she goes to move back or spend time with her mother, and she takes the kids with her and leaves him with his project that he's got on. Yeah. Now, Morgan Freeman, got to be one of my favourite actors of all time, plays God, and he always dresses in white. But he's got that beautiful voice, Morgan Freeman. You could listen to him all day long, couldn't you? And he never became famous, until he was in his 50s. Very amazing. But he got the role of God in Evan Almighty and Bruce Almighty. Yeah. And anyway, she is driving across the country. She's got the right ump, and she's left him at home, and the kids are in the car, and she stops off for a drink. And Morgan Freeman pops up everywhere because he's God. He pops up everywhere.
He's like the policeman. He's the traffic warden.
He's everyone. Anyway, he's suddenly the waiter in the restaurant, and he asks her. They have a little bit of a conversation, and suddenly, her husband is on the news. But the point is that he asked her. She asked him a great question, and I can't remember actually what the question was.
Well, what happened at first was, she's seems upset. So
Yes.
so God, the waiter, has said, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Oh, that's my husband. You know, on the telly. He's
now famous not as a newsreader, but for the project that
else.
he's doing. Yeah,
right." And so he goes, "Oh, right, yeah, I've seen him. He, you know, that's really great," or whatever he says. And then she says to him, she asks this question, which is such a, you know, quite question. It's like, you know, I don't know what to do, because I don't know how to, like, you know, I don't know how to overcome this. I don't know how to make him change. I don't know kind of like how this family can survive this. And then he says,
says this great thing, really, which it's quite a long, you know, speech, really, but it's brilliantly done. But the core of the speech, and that's why I encourage you to watch the whole thing, because obviously it's a film, it has a happy ending and all that. But the point that he makes is Michael's point, which is, look, if we were to, you know, let's just say, believe the essence that the universe has given us COVID, yeah? You know, what made us get COVID in the first place? How did that all work? You know, it's not about the bats or the pigs in the market, which is the practical, logical stuff. It's like, you know, were humans living in such a disconnected way that actually we needed something to test us, yeah? So that's the way that, you know, Morgan Freeman talks about it. So he says to her, look, let me give you an example. If you need to have courage, God doesn't give you courage. So if you pray for courage, God doesn't give you courage, yeah, which I believe is absolutely true. Very amazing. That's not how the universe works. What God does is he gives you opportunities to be courageous. So that is the punchline. Yeah? So I believe that humans are so disconnected from each other in so many different ways. Everything from, you know, not talking to your partner, you're falling out. You know, I was coaching somebody yesterday. He's in such a difficult situation with his wife, and I'm going, he's like, he's doing all the victim stuff and all that, and he can't see it. He just can't see it because he's so in the argument. You know, what he's doing, he's just trying to make her wrong. But guess what? She's trying to make him wrong. They're both trying to be right. But of course, that's led them to break up. They've got a child. The child's in the middle of it. The child's become the center of the argument. Who's having him, who's not. They can't agree, so now they've gone to social services. Social services are now going to go, well, you'll have to have him this time, and you'll have to. It's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare. And all they've done is they've been given the opportunity to be more loving. Look, they've been given the opportunity, but they're not. They've forgotten about that, and they're focusing on not wanting to be wrong, and they're focused on making the other person wrong, and boom, now they're disconnected. And now they're disconnected so far, the gap is so far that they go their own way, yeah? And it's really hard, you know, honestly, I would say to people, look, you know, if you said there was like, once you're, you know, in a really deep disconnected place, it's very hard. People come to us and they're so far apart and go, you know, one of them will come and go, can you fix this? Well, can we fix it? Well, not really, no. It's you're the one that's going to have to fix it. And obviously it's much easier if both of you are there. We can help you, you know, see it differently. So suddenly the magnetism comes back. But look, everybody always comes to us and we're already miles apart. Look, you know, I always go, look, you want to be working on your relationship when you're still like this, so that you don't you don't separate. A lot of people come to us, the further you are away, the more disastrous it looks. Then you come and ask for help. I go ask for help all the time. Look to learn about relationships. Look to find out. You know, that's why I know about the flowers. You know, I know that Nicki loves them. So I just go, look, even if I think they've been murdered and it's all, you know, not good, she loves them. And look, they're going to be in Sainsbury's anyway, and they're going to get thrown away if I don't buy them. So I might as well have them in our house and bring her some love and joy, which it literally, honestly, it makes us so happy.
Right, so lots of comments. So let me just read some out. So Izzy was saying, you know, this is Izzy and Harry.
Yes, Izzy and
Harry. I was asking, what mistakes have you made that, you know, that you've perhaps overcome, or that you've still wanting to overcome? And Izzy's gone, the mistakes she's learned from old relationships was she wasn't, or the way she's saying it is, I was not expressing how I was feeling and what I wanted in the relationship. And I think this is so interesting. It's like, if you state what you want in the relationship in a demanding way, and I think this is definitely sometimes what women can be like this, it's kind of ultimatum. It's like a confrontational way of going, this is what I want, and if I don't get it, I'm very upset about it. And men do the same.
Yeah, but this is where at the beginning of your relationship you need to start the process of creating an us. Because look, often when we come together, it's like this whole magnetism thing happens. And, there are some arguments. I think it's Neil Donald Walsh, is it, that says, look, when this masculine energy meets this feminine energy and they're drawn to each other, something happens inside us and we become this super connected, yeah? But of course, then when we move down the road a little bit and we find out that they do the knives one way and you do them the other, and they don't put the plates in the dishwasher and they leave the lights on and all of that. Now you've got the universe giving us opportunities to part. But what it's saying is, well, how strong is your love? Look at yourself. Look at what you started with. Now you're making it into this. So they're all opportunities to grow, to learn, to be more loving, to be more happy and joyous and all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Susie is saying, I find many people say that their partners, we're talking about lockdown still here.
Yes.
Their partners are not truly present. In other words, you're in the house together.
There you go.
But because you're in the house together doesn't mean you're present with each other. So sometimes, a bit like we said last week, you're in the house together.
Level two.
You've got COVID going on. Maybe you're both working from home and all that kind of stuff. You've got that going on. Or, you're homeschooling the kids. Things are happening. Even more reason to funny enough, Izzy's saying that she and Harry do Tony and Nicki times,
lovely.
They put that, and even though they're living in separate places, which is really challenging for them, they get on the phone and they have special time to be together and be connected. And I think that's the case when, like Tony's saying, so many couples, they don't realize that gradually they're getting further and further apart. Then all of a sudden, they're in lockdown together, they're at home together or whatever, and they are literally not being in a place together. They're not being present.
But this is
they're not considering each other.
But this is so why lockdown's a gift, because it's giving you the opportunity. Remember the Morgan Freeman? It's giving you the opportunity to be loving. Because what's the truth? What you want, I just know from my old relationships, that I was always looking for them to love me. I was that way round. What I didn't realise is what I needed to do was completely the opposite. I needed to be loving and then share the love with that person. Because when you're being loving, you're sharing the love. So then you're in a level 3 relationship, which is what we said last week, where that person's needs are your needs. So if you put their needs at the front of your pile of needs and they're doing the same, suddenly you start to get the magnetism back again, yeah? Whereas when you're going, well, I'll sort my own needs out, you sort your needs out, and we'll share a house and whatever else we share. But then we wonder why the divorce rate is so huge, because what's happening is this model of having a relationship ends up with you making them wrong, them making you wrong, and boom, you got the gap. What else we got?
Michael, and a few things. First of all, Michael's saying, which is really cool, he's gone, when he was meditating, I'm assuming this is during lockdown, he said he had a voice tell him to make a large cave temple to meditate in his garden. Now, that's fantastic, and that will put Michael in a better state so that he can be a much more loving husband to his wife. Absolutely. And a much more loving father to his children. And I think that's a really good thing. So sometimes it's not all about being present with your partner and wanting to meet their needs, which, of course, remember from last week, level 3, his needs are my needs. I think spending some time, if the situation is the case that I was saying, where the people that I'm coaching are saying, but I'm just not in a good state. I'm frustrated. I'm fed up. I've had enough now and all that. Whereas actually to take some time to work on yourself to make sure you're in the best state for your partner is huge.
So getting yourself in a great state and then bringing yourselves together to share time, dedicate time, a bit like Izzy and Harry is saying, look, we're having a dedicated time together. And look, the longer that time is, the more likely you are to stay magnetized, yeah? So, and look, I always say, Michael, one of the things I say about meditation, which I learned years ago, is that, look, you can meditate and get yourself in a great state, But what you want to do when the meditation ends is you need to carry, once you open your eyes up, you're back in the world again, yeah? You need to carry that state into your daily life, because that state is a loving state. Generally speaking, if you're meditating at quite a high level, then there's no adrenaline in your system, and that means there's a place for love. All the time you're in emergency mode, you're in fight and flight with stressed, and you've got like adrenaline in your system. Now you're being reactive. And when you're being reactive, that's the time you're most likely to disconnect. Yes. Whereas what you want to do, and look, honestly, I lived with a person who could meditate for hours. And I always said to him, look, this is all great. You meditate and it's all lovely. And I come in the room and you're, sitting there like Buddha. And, the energy is fantastic. It's fantastic. And then he used to come out of the meditation, and then I'd say, here's your Barclay card bill, and then he's gone. He's like lost. He's lost that state. So the gift of meditation is to be able to do meditation eyes open. It's like, okay, let me keep that state, go back into my world, because that is exactly what your woman wants. She wants that part of you, that loving, softer part of you. But once our mind switches that off and gets into the daily routine of a modern Western life, where there's stresses and strain, bills and all of that sort of stuff, we lose that connection. So the trick is to learn to live in that space, no matter what. No matter what bill comes through the door, can you stay in that state? Yeah. And look, I promise you, it's a big ask, but look, at least if we laid the principle out. Now, if you both got yourself in a great place, this is a time to sit down, the kid's gone to bed, if you've got kids, and go, right, let's work on us. Nicki asked me this morning, we haven't actually done it, but she did ask me, and I know she's asked me, and we'll do it in a moment, and that is, she said to me, can we do some of that learning today? Some of that. Can we do a bit of spiritual?
We love doing that together.
We love it. So we're going to put some time aside in a minute, because obviously Villa were playing tonight.
I know.
She's a Villa fan. Anyway, a Villa fan, and so she likes a bit of the Villa, and obviously Nick. We're in connection with Nick because he's a massive Villa fan. So they're all watching that, and that's all good. And but after that, then. Yes. Oh,
they won 1-0.
So after that, we can go, right, well, I'll find something that we can watch or learn from you. And actually, if you do, my favourite thing, if you've not watched it, of course, is to watch a bit of Gaia TV. Now, it can get a bit, because it's a lot of documentaries, but in fact, Dan and her have got some stuff on there. The bloke's called Crotchula, amazing guy. And he'll tell you some stuff that makes your hair go curly. And it's very funny that he's got very curly hair.
Because we've only got 3 minutes to go, I just wanted to say something. I know we talked about it last week, but I wanted you to, just because you always explain it so well, is Nikki Lau said, I've been working with some clients using the steps of the non-violent communication model.
Fantastic.
She dislikes the term, which I understand.
Yes.
Non-violent. But actually...
We've actually met Wes.
I think we spoke about it last time. Yeah. It may have been where Nikki... Well, I don't know. Maybe Nikki got it from somebody else, but she may have got it from us. But the thing that I totally remember, which I wanted you to talk about, because you're really good at this stuff, is that like the very... sometimes you get a learning and you just take a very simple thing from it. All I remember talking about this last week.
The diagram.
All it is we used to teach this, didn't we? Because we used to say, if you're in an argument, that means you're in head-to-head.
Yeah.
And remember, or if you've come across any of the teaching of Mr. Tony V, are you in the red or the green? If you're in the red, you're in your head, you're in fear, you're in doubt, worry, frustration, anger, and all that down, low energy. But if you realize you're in your head, and instead of being in your head, that you look towards the person's heart, just even by looking towards that person's heart, or by thinking about speaking from your heart rather than your head and your resentment or your frustration or all that low stuff. Actually, to coin a phrase, violence goes out of the communication, and where there is no fear, that can be love. Where there is no violence or resentment or anger and everything, there can be love. Tony V.
No, well, we've got 1 minute, but you're absolutely right.
2 minutes, actually.
I used to draw that diagram. Well, you're a minute behind, darling. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all good. But anyway,
we've ever finished on time, have we?
No, true. So basically, I used to draw 2 pin men, and I used to draw their little brain, and a pin man and a pin woman, draw their brain and then I'd put a little heart in the middle of the Tin Man. Yeah, and what I used to do is go, right, okay, if you're head to head, you are going to lose magnetism. You do look, and often you'll see when you're in a bit of an argument, never look at the other person. Yeah, you always look away. So you might as well look at their heart, and as you look at their heart, then you say something that talks to their heart, and it's like a miracle, absolutely like a miracle. If you say something to somebody's heart, their heart speaks back to your heart. So, I don't remember Wes's book much, Nonviolent Communication, but I do remember doing that diagram and using it and going, getting people to do the exercise, and it was amazing. So our time is up.
Yeah, I've just got a question. Let me just
come on. We've got one last question. We're going to go over now.
Oh, okay. Izzy said, "What's the learning?" So I've just said, Izzy, do you mean what's the learning of nonviolent communication? And I've spelt it all wrong. Michael just made me laugh out loud. He said, just so you know, villa is a slang word in Greek for a man's private parts.
Really?
Which is why I yelped.
I thought it was where the Greeks lived, in the villa.
So I am in complete support of villa, which I thought was hysterical. Lovely. And lots of people are saying great conversation. Thank you. Bye, Nicky now. Let me just wait and see if Izzy's got this last question.
Yeah. Anyway.
But actually, wonderful.
So that's it. I can't believe an hour's gone by. Trust you got something amazing from it.
We have had loads of
we've laughed. Laughter brings on the old love chemicals. So I hope if you've had a bit of a laugh, then the love chemicals, the stress, laughter gets rid of stress, gets rid of adrenaline. So the more you laugh, the better you feel, more oxytocin in your system, and all those lovely hormones and chemicals that produce are the love chemicals. Yeah, so easier then to get into connection. So spend some time with your partner if you've got one, creating an us this week. Sit down, get yourself in a nice place, share and create what we call the us. That's it.
I only have one question.
Go.
Who's Albert Einstein?
Oh, have I spelled it wrong? That is fantastic. Bit of a dyslexic mistake there, but that's all good. So anyway, that's it from me, Tony Nicki V.
Oh, Izzy's asking, you said about your homework.
I gave him some homework.
Oh, right. Okay, I must have missed that. I must have been typing.
What did I say, though? I
don't remember now.
Oh, no, the homework is to watch the film. Yeah, so get the film, Evan Almighty. Get the film, Evan Almighty. Do it tonight.
Evan Almighty.
Firstly, you're going to laugh. You might even cry a little bit. It's a great movie with that great learning, which Morgan Freeman shares, and go, let me just emblazon that on my inner world.
Yeah,
actually, if I, the universe is not going to give us love, it's going to give us opportunities to be loving. And that particularly is going to happen in things like lockdown. See, it gives us a chance to be loving to the other person when things are difficult. Yeah. So that's
fantastic.
It. We're done.
We are done. So, have a fantastic week.
Yes.
We'll see you next week.
See you next
are Saturday night live. Well, we used to say late night live.
Yeah, don't forget, if you are on YouTube, if you've not been on our YouTube channel, please do go there, because there's
loads.
I think we're well over 70 videos about this sort of stuff, so you can make that bit of personal development. Somebody was saying to me the other day how they absolutely loved going and watching all the videos. You forget Netflix, go and watch a bit of Tony Nicki on the 1010 movement. So it's 10-10.life, and do the life check. So that's on www.10-10.life. You'll be able to do the test there, or just go to YouTube, type in the 1010 movement, and you get access to all the videos where we talk about all sorts of stuff. We talk about COVID on there.
We do.
I did a whole thing on COVID. Got loads of views straight away.
Yeah, and we have
and give the alternative view, the bit that we never talk about COVID. I'll give a bit of an alternative view and what you could do about it, which is quite interesting.
Also, I did some videos ages ago about lockdown as well, didn't I?
You did.
About how do you deal with it and how do you deal with money and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, because I haven't been typing on here, hello, Cheryl Lewis, and thank you for being with us on YouTube, because most people were
on Facebook, but that's okay.
And people are saying lovely, lovely things.
Awesome. Right.
Thank you. Glad it's been absolutely fab. And by Facebook, by YouTube.
Awesome. All right. We'll see you next Saturday, 7 o'clock. Get it in the diary.
Lots of love.
And we'll see you then. Bye for now. Bye.